We're going to break tradition, okay? These are just going to be two feel-good fucking stories, okay? Because there's been a lot of kind of depressive topics this past few days, and you know what? Fuck it. We're just going to go ahead and talk about some really heartwarming shit, okay? So if you feel like you might feel a little bit of a case of early onset diabetes, this is going to be awfully sugary stuff. So I don't blame you if you want to turn off, but this is a perfect way to pick up your Sunday. So teen brothers join lone elderly diner at her restaurant table. She was delighted. This is just so sweet, okay? Like there's no two ways about it. These kids are great, and it really brought out the best in humanity in this story, and I just wanted to share this with everybody because I thought it was awfully special. An elderly woman eating lunch alone at a restaurant on Father's Day was initially shocked when three teenage brothers asked to join her. Yet her shock turned into joy and gratitude when she discovered the siblings wanted to learn about her life, talk about God, and spread a little love. When they saw this woman at the table alone, they couldn't help but think that this woman had been someone's grandmother. The brothers' mom, Courtney Hendricks, told Epoch Times via email. Having lost their own grandmother in February of this year, the boys spent some time thinking about their favorite memories with her. Jalen 18, Christian 17, and Jordan 14 hoped that someone would reach out to the lonely diner at the Ole Times Eatery. When nobody did, they took it upon themselves to fill the three empty seats at her table. They later learned that the woman's name was Shelby Garrett, an 83-year-old woman who had recently moved to their blended family's hometown of Warner Robins, Georgia. The fourth brother, Tristan, 9 years old, also joined them. Initially, she seemed a bit shocked, Courtney recalled. However, that was quickly replaced with gratitude and sheer joy. She was delighted to have them join her. However, neither Courtney, a nurse, nor her partner, James Watson, an aircraft sheet metal mechanic, were surprised by their son's gestures. Courtney maintained that her children have always been taught to have compassion for others. The proud parents shared photos of their boys with Garrett, and Courtney even shared them on Facebook. He talked about peach cobbler and ice cream, she wrote. They talked about God. They asked them about their lives and their goals. The elderly woman also turned to Courtney and James and told them how delighted she was to sit with their children. Courtney's post was shared thousands of times, eventually reaching Garrett's family, who then got in touch with her and shared more photos and information about their loved ones. Garrett, they say, was the fourth born of 9 children. After willingly taking on responsibility for care of her parents, as she never married nor had children of her own. Courtney and her family never expected their story to go viral, but are delighted for the positivity it has sparked. The mom of 4 hopes that others are inspired to take the moment every now and then to think of someone else. It's just such a great story. Just a family who's all together, just a bunch of brothers that were just going to sit down and enjoy their own company, and they thought that they could share a little of that appreciation with others, and it is so special. It really is. And then one more really feel-good story. A man who began drinking alcohol at age 14 overcomes addiction after missing his father's funeral. Another tragedy turned into something incredibly good, and now he's once again spreading love. A man who was addicted to drinking alcohol for most part of his life decided to quit after he missed his father's funeral. Now, 2 years sober, he is helping people who have fallen into addiction get their life back together. Today, I'm living a life that came before was just an existence. Carl Finn, 46 years old, told the Epoch Times, staying sober is my way of making amends and my tribute to my dad and the rest of my family who stood by me. I think he would be proud of the person I became and of the journey I've been on since I overcame my addiction. Finn, who resides in the South End, Essex, in the United Kingdom, added. Finn was born and raised by his parents, along with his older brother, in a working-class area of Dublin, Ireland, called the Liberties, which is famous for its bars and markets, as is the rest of Ireland. According to Finn, the area was full of addiction and crime, and it was easy to fall into drinking, and at the age of 14, Finn, who says he was that he was a sensitive child back then, began drinking just to fit in with the crowd. However, his addiction spiraled out of control, and within just 1 year, Finn went off the rails, with drinking becoming a major problem in his life. At the time, my mom and dad were going through a marriage breakup, which made me very sad, but I couldn't really express how I felt, so I drank to forget what was going on, he said. After his parents separated, Finn decided to stay with his father. Life wasn't very easy for him. His father had bouts of alcoholism and was unpredictable when he drank. It was left to Finn, to grow up and take on the responsibility at home while also supporting his father emotionally. It wasn't easy seeing a strong man like my dad deal with the breakdown of his marriage, he said. During the phase, Finn, who dropped out of school, began drinking on most days and felt lost without any plan for the future and no qualifications. A then 15-year-old began to work in a bar. Best of intentions, ending up in the worst possible situation. In an attempt to help him out with his addiction, his aunt allowed him to stay with her in Weymouth in order to detox. It worked for a while, and I managed to cut it right down. However, not too long after he turned 17, and he decided to live with his father, who moved to Birmingham. Stories of Birmingham are legendary in and of itself. Surrounded by his father's side of his family, whose business was pubs and clubs, Finn went back into his habit of drinking. During this time, he began a manager of the biggest pubs and clubs in the city. Skip ahead a little bit. I became a different person when I drank, and my life was unmanageable. I wouldn't turn up to work, or I would disappear for several hours at a time. I couldn't stop. Each day I would wake up and focus on how to get money so I could drink. I would sell things like my phone. I would hang around with other addicts and alcoholics who had drank, which I didn't always like. I was existing but not living. As an alcoholic, I continually lied and put my family through hell, he said. I pushed boundaries and broke their hearts repeatedly. Then, one Christmas, when Finn called up his mother, he was met with the news that would change his life forever. His mother told him that his father had died alone after a bout of food poisoning. He was still drinking, and, to make matters worse, I found out that I had missed his funeral a month after it had happened. My family had tried hard to let me know, but I was always losing or selling my phone. They weren't able to contact me. The addiction had cost them everything, and I didn't want that to be my future, so I made the change. I felt incredibly guilty that I had not been there because of my own addiction problems. I was absent when he needed me the most. In a decision to change his life, Finn solicited the help of Daniel Byatt, the founder of Step by Step Recovery, a private residential clinic that provides a safe and confidential environment for those affected by addiction but who are looking to begin recovery. I've now been sober for 2 years and I couldn't be happier. My life is a million times better. I am in a flat and I have a partner, and I'm full of hope for the future. With a desire to give back to society, he began volunteering to help people who were in the same condition he once was, and he was offered a job as an alcohol and drug recovery worker at the Lighthouse in South End, the clinic for step-by-step recovery. As you can see, the required uniform for the Lighthouse is a pink jumper. I will praise his accomplishments, but question his fashion decisions. He has also rekindled his relationship with his mother, who stood by him through the darkest of times. Currently living his best life, Finn advises those who are trying to overcome their addiction that there is always hope. Yep. The only problem is you have to want it for yourself. I've lost friends to addiction. I've seen many a stoner I used to hang out with in junior high school and high school descend to a life of absolute madness, and it sucks. That's what they wanted to do. And in some places it's incentivized, supported, and in other cases it takes a horrific turn for the worse. I don't know where some of my old friends have ended up, and quite frankly I hope the best for them. I hope they eventually did find their bottom and perhaps are working their way back into society. I've never drank, never smoked, never done drugs. Probably the most vivacious thing I've ever partaken in is an extra strong pre-workout stimulant, and that's about it. And it's just mostly caffeine, and that's about it. I did it for various reasons throughout my life, but most recently when I was really thinking about it, really considering it for whatever reason. Whenever I'm asked why I don't drink, and it's like, I just didn't really develop a taste for it. It's just one of those things where nobody's life story begins and then things really started to take a turn for the better when I started drinking, or when I started doing drugs, when I started shooting up. That just doesn't happen. This dude eventually found it out at the cost of his father, the cost of a very important life event. And he turned something terrible into something wonderful going forward. And to a much lesser extent, That's what I attempt to do with some of these really terrible stories that happen ad nauseum, it seems like lately, and they only seem to be getting worse. Try to add a little levity to it, and then in some cases I have the opportunity to share a couple of stories like this that are quite inspirational. And once again, I know I talked about it not that long ago. If anybody's having any troubles, feel free to reach out. I try my hardest to reach out to everybody who makes a comment, and just know that you aren't alone. With that said, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut. Get after it. Take care, everyone.